Jeffrey is banishing himself along with Ixis. I prefer Hershey Sonic Online where he got to see Hershey again. Here, he's gonna doom himself to a fate worse than death because he hates himself and is completely succumbing to that. That's a darker tone than I'd have wanted. How does he think he'll live forever in the void? Ixis says it'll strip him of his powers. I assume it can only strip people of powers if they only had those powers because he gave them powers. Because otherwise, if he could strip anyone of their powers, he would have depowered Sonic a long time ago. Not to mention Tails. He says he'll kill him as soon as he loses those chains. Are the chains gonna disappear after a while? Why would that be a part of the spell? Jeffrey warns him that he'd be lonely in the void by himself. Yeah, he would. He'd go insane from solitary confinement. But considering how stupid Ixis has been, even before the Mecha Sally arc, because he just decided to flee to the Zone of Silence to hide from Kodos, when he could have easily just killed Kodos with his magical power. Ixis has always been an idiot. He decided to leave the body of the king when Sonic confronted him, when he could have just used his magic against Sonic, and won, because he's a wizard. He could have frozen Sonic's feet. So considering how dumb he is, I guess he would have planned on killing Jeffrey. And then gone insane from solitary confinement because Jeffrey wouldn't be with them. So Jeffrey vanishes along with Ixis. While I would find it cringeworthy to see him be treated like garbage after he turned on Ixis. So this is a smaller amount of pain than that. But come on, that's not how it's supposed to go. But I doubt Gunn would let him go back to working for them. I guess it's less suffering for him to get killed by Ixis than it is to be treated badly by all the heroes because he's a traitor. I wouldn't want to see him deal with that. For some reason, Jeffrey questions why he's still here. Good, he's here. He asked the Dark Legion member why he was pulled onto a roof when the binding spell wore off. That Legion member followed a Heroes on a Motorcycle last issue. That's a good rewatch bonus, when you finally learn who that Legionnaire actually was. He says the banishing was supposed to be his punishment for everything he did wrong. He gets hit, and Hershey tells him that all he did was apply a band-aid and try to run off like a coward. Why would she hit him? I miss Hershey Sonic Online where she was really nice and understanding to him. Because she's his wife, so she's supposed to love him. But this is realistic. He says he's just grateful she's alive, Legionized arm and all. I love that she blushes. Probably because she knows how sweet it is that he would like her even if he thought she was a cyborg. So it makes sense that she changed her tune about being really mad at him after that. She says they're just props, fakes for a mission. A costume? That's better writing than that not being the case. Archie Sonic Online didn't show her as having any cybernetics, fake or otherwise. I guess she's wearing a fake cybernetic arm costume over her real one. That's how she can fake having cybernetics. But that should have been explained. She says she was playing the part of a Legionized Mobian with amnesia to try and gather intel. I love the amnesia part. It tries to explain why they didn't find out that she was Hershey the cat and do more with her because she's Jeffrey's wife. She thankfully hugs him and says that if he hadn't learned from his mistakes and tried to fix them, they'd be having a very different conversation right now. I wish he had explained to her why he put Ixis in power. It would be more natural writing for that to happen. He would have explained to her that he was hoping he could change Ixis. That he was hoping that the responsibility of actually becoming a king would cause him to care about the people and shape up. I don't buy that he wouldn't try to explain himself at all. It makes it harder to believe that she'd forgive him when she doesn't even know why she did that. I'm still confused that she managed to save him from being sent to the void. He was clearly chained up and vanished in a flash of light. And it didn't seem like she was next to him at the time. I didn't think she was in the same room as him. This is a retcon, but a good one. She says he's not going to be alone and kisses him. His reaction was sweet. I liked the line he has. It was pretty sympathetic. Sally's told to come here, and Dr. Quack says that Max will be fine. His vitals still seem to be stable, and quite good in fact. Wouldn't he have suffocated in the crystal though? How does he have any vitals? I guess the crystals aren't that close to him that he can't breathe at all, and there's still air in it. The cracking started when Jeffrey finished his speech and the light faded away. So I guess it started cracking because Ixis wasn't there to keep him in the crystal anymore. Okay, I get him breaking out of the crystal, and I understand why the writer would want to have him be healed, but it's ridiculous to change his design. He doesn't have to look younger. Nobody liked his reboot design, and at least it's not literally that, but still, this is distracting. Most of the light-hearted plot thread resolutions in this comic usually come with a price that doesn't seem worth it. I'm hoping Hershey Sonic Line will do the good and discard the bad. Why would Ixis intend to do this for him? Why would the wizards in his head make this happen either? How would this happen by accident? He'd have to imagine it for it to happen. I guess his magic is like a malfunctioning computer at this point, and there doesn't have to be rhyme or reason to it, because it's just a glitchy AI. But what kind of poorly written programming would cause this to happen? If his magic is like glitchy, reprogrammed code, that should be explained. Because I'm just off-put and confused that something happened that Ixis didn't want. It'd make more sense for Merlin to heal him with a healing potion of his. I know he ascended to a different plane of existence with Aurora, but I have no idea why he did. I have no idea why she chose him. Why did she take so long to choose him, if she thought he was worthy? My point is, Merlin's a wizard. I could totally buy that he could just come back whenever he feels like it and heal the king. Of course, I'll still be questioning why he doesn't come back and visit Tails a lot more often if he can just go between the planes of existence whenever he wants. Couldn't an alternate universe Merlin do it? I'm just off-put and confused that something happened that Ixis didn't want. But to be fair, I couldn't imagine Max getting back to normal being anything other than a wizard did it. But how could Ixis do this by accident? It'd make more sense for him to do it on purpose as a failed attempt to get the public back on his side. Because it'd take advantage of him being manipulating. He says to his wife that he can hold her in his arms again. Couldn't he have done that earlier? Didn't he do that earlier? When he thanked her for getting Ixis to leave him alone when he was trying to possess him? Since Sally's holding a crown, a civilian asks if he's becoming king again. Jumping the gun there. Someone says the king is back to return them to better days. It would be just what the council deserves, to be associated entirely with hiring Ixis Nagas. Hamlin says that Max can't become king again. There's a council now, and nobody can become king unless they allow it. Rosemary says, "Read the room, Hamlin." Okay, but she's been no better than him in constantly supporting Ixis and stuff. It's kind of weird for her to suddenly be portrayed as the level-headed, smart, down-to-earth woman. It's infinitely better than her old portrayal, but it's still not deep and interesting enough and regretful enough to make up for being cliché. She is not one to talk on lampshading how unlikable a council member is. I'm so glad Hamlin got hit by a tomato. This is too good to be true. I hope this happens in Hershey Sonic Online. But I thought Elias was supposed to be the king now. Get him! First he put Nagas in power, and now he's trying to stop Max from returning. Down with the council! Awesome. It's weird that the comic's forgetting that the secret freedom fighters exist, though. Elias isn't dead. Chuck isn't dead. But the comic would make you think they are. And Sally's obviously a better leader. But she's busy being a freedom fighter right now. I really wish that the text bubbles were actually connected to specific people in the crowd. It'd make it easier to stay invested in what's going on. The king says, "It seems now more than ever the city needs strong and unified leadership. I shall take that responsibility for the time being. However, since my son created the council, I wish to keep together an advisory role. While his dialogue is stilted, it's so nice of him to tell the council that while they voted Nagas in, they kept him in check the best they could. I feel like he's been brainwashed into being a better person here. It wouldn't be like him to approve of the council at all. Especially not after they voted Nagas in. Still, I love this. Lighthearted is better than dark drama nonsense, even if it's contrived. I take a Deus Ex Machina over a Diabolic Ex Machina any day. I just wish this was an Hershey Sonic Online. But I wouldn't blame them for not doing this, because it's too confusing to have the king return to his proper character because of an accident of Ixis's. Can't a good wizard do it? Like a good version of Ixis from Scourge's planet? Or Merlin Prower? Six says to Tangle in the background that the king looks and acts exactly like he did before he was sent to the void, when she idolized him as a kid. Why would someone paranoid idolize a king? I guess she wasn't always paranoid and crazy. Max thanks everyone and tells them to please return to their daily lives. I mean, it does kind of make sense that Elias isn't the king because he only got given the throne because the king was incapacitated. He never wanted it anyways. Then after Tangle says excitedly that she wants to be a freedom fighter, and I wonder if they'll actually have the guts to do that because she's an IDW, we see that the secret freedom fighters are here too, and they're hiding in red cloaks. Elias is worried that if he reveals himself to his dad right now, he might destabilize things by risking the council having a civil war over which king should retake the throne. He says they should wait until tomorrow, after he's officially king again. He should also say that he never wants to be king anyways. That'd be less confusing. Then a plot thread is resolved as soon as it began, because Sonic spots Hershey and Jeffrey. Hershey has an urgent report for the king, while Jeffrey is really sympathetic, saying, "Believe me, this is quite awkward for me too. But I'm here thanks to Hershey." Hershey says that she's come back from her undercover mission to report critical information for their very survival. Hamlin calls Jeffrey a traitor who needs to pay for his crimes. He's especially unlikable here. I hope it's because the writer is realizing how awful and unlikable Hamlin was in the comic, so he's lampshading and parodying it by putting on full display. Couldn't someone have a middle ground here and say, okay, he should be punished, but just have him do community service for a long time? He's already been punished enough. He feels guilty about working for Ixis and everyone hates him. It's totally understandable for Hamlin to feel this way, but still. She says, "Are you kidding me? I just said we don't have time for this. Do us a favor and just shut up for a minute." I'd love if Hamlin got kicked out of town. Honestly, I hate him more than Drago. At least Drago's a bad guy and everyone acknowledges him as a bad guy. So we're not alone. Hamlin's a bureaucrat. So everyone thinks he's a good guy most of the time, and he's acting in the law. It's Hamlin who gets me riled up just on sight. At least the worst thing Drago ever did was a really long time ago, in the Endgame saga. Hershey warns the king that Eggman's allied with two new dangerous villains. Too bad they're probably Sly Cooper villains, which isn't conducive to making this feel like a real continuation of the comic. I mean, STC Online got away with having Styx in it, and Dave the intern. I was perfectly fine with that, and I still felt like it was a perfect continuation of the comic. But Dr. M is a villain from a different franchise. The king warns her to wait because he doesn't want the citizens to hear this and cause another panic. That's kind of smart. I'm just saying that I wish I got to see an arc after all these plot thread resolutions that actually felt like something that would happen in Archie Sonic. Though I guess it wouldn't be so bad if you could replace the Sly Cooper villains with random other people and it would be just as logical. Eggman could make a robot that would be like Clockwork himself. She says that the bad guys have critical information about their bases. I hope that's why the warp ring stopped working, because I still can't take that seriously if I don't know the answer yet. If it was Finitibus, what took so long? Why didn't he do it a lot earlier? It'd be harder for a story or comic to sink in if practically every new plot development was too confusing to be taken seriously. And a lot of them happened because of that stupid blue emerald. Then the story cuts to Rosemary at the desk in the council room. I wish there was a text box saying minutes later or something, because that was abrupt. Predictably, she says that the council almost unanimously decided to place King Max back into the role of the king. Then the king wants to pass judgment on Jeffrey, calling him a criminal. Penelope wastes time recapping everything Jeffrey did when we already know that, so that's really boring. But I guess it was necessary to show this to get the plot moving along. Why is he deemed an accomplice to Ixis leaking information to Robotnik? Ixis did that without his knowledge, and he was mad at him when he found out about it. Jeffrey pleads guilty instead of saying he was unaware of what Ixis did. He's at least able to try to explain himself before the verdict is passed. He says that at the time he was traumatized over his wife's apparent death and wasn't sure what to do with his life. And the kingdom had a new king with little experience and a council made of civilians. So at the time, Nagas felt like an obvious choice. Explain better than that, genius. He's an evil wizard. He should be saying that he was hoping Ixis could change to become a good person. If he was a good person, then it'd be an obvious choice. Jeffrey says that things changed, and after learning about his attempt on Elias's life and his plan to mind control the city, he turned against him. He did in Archie Sonic, too. Is the comic going with an alternate universe, where Ixis only tried to make a plan to mind control the entire city once? Twice? He was against them from that. He didn't only turn against him after learning about his attempt on Elias's life. Ixis tried to kill Elias in the Sonic Universe arc, where he tried to brainwash the city, too. He even tried to leave Ixis to die, so it's not like he didn't try. What's the point if it doesn't feel like a real conclusion of Jeffrey's subplot if he doesn't go off the same continuity? It's just a pointless what-if scenario, even if it is a superior scenario. Didn't he start regretting working for Ixis as soon as he saw him brainwashing people to hate Nicole? He would mention that too. He could make a much better case for himself. He says that it's no excuse and he has deep regret for what he did, and accepts any punishment he'll get. The king smiles because he said he had deep regret for it, and says he knows his sentence after hearing the advice of the council, which I wish I actually knew about, and I wish I got to read that instead of a bunch of recap. He sentences Jeffrey to life. He wouldn't say that when he's about to say that he sentences him to a life dedicated to protecting the kingdom and people within it. The only reason he'd say he's sentencing him to life in the first place is that he's intentionally making a joke and trying to fake him out. Which doesn't seem in character. Hamlin's mad at him for trying to pardon him. I understand how he feels, but still, it's so obvious that getting Jeffrey to do good is a smarter way to punish him, instead of wasting his potential in prison. The king says that if Jeffrey hadn't tried to sacrifice his life to thwart Ixis, he would have gotten life in prison. He wouldn't be able to do that in Archie Sonic Online, because he was possessed, but he still wouldn't deserve life in prison. The king said that he always believed that it was critical for a king to have no regrets. But he's done plenty of things he should regret, like hiring Eggman. I'm pretty sure it's critical for a king to have regrets, so he knows what he's failed at and can improve. Hopefully this is where he's going with this. He says that every decision carries heavy weight, and fixating on the past could lead to wasting time wallowing in self-doubt. He did fixate on the past, like when he tried to get Sally to marry Antoine because the source of all wants that. And he won't just say that right away. He says that he always believed that all of his decisions were the best ones. He says that even this morning he was assured that all of his decisions had been correct in his life. Somehow, even though he had hired Robotnik, who proceeded to betray him. I don't buy that exaggeration. He reminds them that he saw Sally about to be hit by an attack and tried to sacrifice his life to save hers, which caused his life to flash before his eyes. After seeing his life up to now, he knows for a fact that he does have regrets, and this surprised him. Hamlin had a reason to not respect him until he finally said this, because if he had stayed arrogant and not learning his lesson, I would have been just as annoyed with him as Hamlin. It's interesting to see that Hamlin would get mad at and question even him. It's surprising, with the way he was given the utmost respect for the entire comic by everyone in the kingdom but Sonic. Now Hamlin's arguing with him, and he's finally the guy no one likes in the council, instead of the one that most of them are siding with. It's realistic that he would not be in favor of Max because it's been forever since Max was the king. Max is just trying to explain in an overly long-winded way that as someone who made stupid decisions himself, he's not one to talk on what Jeffrey did. He put Robotnik in a position of power by making him warlord and science advisor. It was his fault that he became a tyrant in the first place, and it was Jeffrey's fault that Ixis became a tyrant. And that's the final page so far. It's weird that the comic wasn't divided up into issues, which would make it feel like a real comic. When I'm reading it, it feels like a good comic, because it does a lot to try to fix the damage to Archie by lightening it up and resolving all the depressing plot threads it could. Even if it's not a pure continuation, because it pretends Sally was never Mecha Sally, and Bunny was never legionized at all, and Jeffrey was never possessed. Which makes me wonder what the point is of insisting on still using those stupid Mecha Sally arc elements anyways. Because we're not seeing what it would be like if that actually got resolved. We're seeing what it would be like if some bad elements of it were retconned away. Flynn really left its mark on Archie Sonic, because there doesn't seem to be a single fan comic afterwards that isn't touched by what he did to it. I'd rather read a comic that completely ignores that story arc than one that only kind of does, without removing the fact that Antoine, Sally, and Bunny were put out of commission, and Jeffrey was made a traitor, and Ixis was made king. I don't like any of those plot ideas. That is a more frustrating mess than the previous writers left behind, because they didn't leave the comic on a huge, depressing story arc like that. All of the fan comics I've read are choosing to be stuck trying to clean up that mess, when they could just ignore it and start out from the end of the Iron Queen arc at worst. Anyways, I can never take it seriously how the whole crossover with Sly Cooper only happened because the Chaos Emerald appeared next to Sally and warped her there for no reason, when it never does that. Good thing that comic tried to make itself worthwhile by trying to resolve Archie's plot threads after Sally came home. I was constantly pleasantly surprised that Sally was almost nothing but polite and happy with Sly instead of hating him for being a thief. That's not what I imagined at all, but it reminds me of how I felt about her and Archie, where she's surprisingly polite. Sonic never had any drama with Sly either, despite being jealous of him and Sally's time together. He was meaner to Knuckles at first. This is great for showing me what Archie Sonic Online could be like years into the future. It'll be different from this, of course, and I hope it'll be less confusing. I don't need King Max to have a different design, that was just ridiculous. And I prefer the heroes to earn their victory there. Maybe they could bring him to an alternate universe Merlin Prower, or Scourge's version of Ixis Nagas, who would be a good guy. It made sense that nanites could easily return Bunny to normal. Just add, they removed the bombs in her cybernetics to the mix, and that's a proper resolution for her. There wasn't one for Sally because she was never roboticized to begin with her. Antoine's still asleep. At least Rotor got stronger. But that's what Bunny's supposed to be for.